Salaries for point-of-entry officials around the country were delayed today. This comes after the functions and staff were transferred to the Border Management Authority in April. According to allegations, the problem of the late payment started in April when they were paid a day later and payslips not being received the day before payday. Employees are allegedly required to send through a request for the payslip and only receive them a week or two after. Among other allegations is that the workers are being debited by policies they did not subscribe to. For more on this issue now, we are joined by Mike Masiapato from the Border Management Authority, and he is indeed the Commissioner. Mike, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition. Let's start here. Are you aware of these allegations or these issues that workers have raised at the ports of entry?
Yes, thank you very much, Bali, and good evening to the viewers. Maybe let me start by indicating that, yes, indeed, as the Border Management Authority, we are fairly aware of the issues that are being raised. And maybe for context purposes, so that there is a very clear understanding, I just want to indicate that as the Border Management Authority, we had started officially operating as a Schedule 3A public entity on the 1st of April 2023. Our operations were fairly based on the transfer that we have done of around 2,000 staff members from 4 government departments into the Border Management Authority. So indeed, as we were to do the processing of the first run of first pay of the employees on the 15th of April, the issue of saying it was a day later is not necessarily correct. The only issue to note is that the payday of the 15th of April was on a Saturday, and we basically did the run on the 14th on a Friday. But under normal circumstances, because the colleagues came from government, most of the time in those instances, government would have done the transaction on the 13th for clearance on the 14th. And that is basically what has been the issue. But at the end of the day, everybody fairly got paid, and we did the same run also in May, and we've also done the same run yesterday for today. If maybe I can just indicate the issue of today, Bali, so that it is clear. What we did for today, we did the payment yesterday, the run, but unfortunately we got to realize with our banker that the transaction was a bit late based on the timeline that the banks actually have. On that basis, the clearance of those amounts happened around 9:30 this morning, and therefore the colleagues expected it to clear overnight, meaning midnight, and that is basically the delay that is being referred to.
Yeah, and so Mark, are you saying that workers have now been paid, and they have been paid on the 15th of June?
Yeah, no, indeed, they have been paid, and the clearance, as I've indicated, happened around 9:30 this morning. So the delayed context actually appears in the context that under normal circumstances, the clearance is supposed to happen 12 midnight into today. But like I'm saying, there was a technical issue with the bank, and the clearance happened this morning at 9:30. And as we speak now, I can indeed confirm that the payment had actually gone through. Everything is sorted. Maybe, Mbali, let me also...
No, it's fine. You can continue. You can continue, Mike.
Yeah, I just wanted to also reflect around the issue of the pay slip so that at least it is also cleared. So the issue on the pay slips, I think you will be aware that we are, as the Border Management Authority, operating on the 72 ports of entry in the Republic. Out of the 72, 53 are land ports, 10 are international airports, and 8 are seaports. And if you look at the spread in terms of those ports, as it were, is thousands and thousands of kilometers apart from each other. So the issue here is we have been fairly sending the pay slips through emails, but we do have colleagues that are fairly in the periphery who do not have access to the emails. So on that basis, we had to do the courier services and all of that. And in many instances, because of the spread of the environment, and also on the basis that we are starting as a new organization, some of the colleagues got their pay slips a bit later.
And do you understand why workers have raised the alarm? Because, I mean, they are saying that this is not the first time this has taken place. There was an issue in April when their salaries were late, and you are saying that they were paid at 9 o'clock this morning, you know, and they are used to their salaries coming in at midnight. Do you think that it's warranted for them to raise this alarm? Because people do have obligations, and those obligations are debit orders, so which come in at a particular point in time. So some of them have actually incurred costs here.
Yeah, no, indeed. Mbali, by the way, we had actually communicated with our colleagues this morning through an internal communication system to indicate the actual delay, as it were. So indeed, it is something that we really understand, and it is something that we do not necessarily even promote. And that is why in the communication we have said that particular error, as it happened, it will not necessarily happen again. But in terms of where we are sitting, we firstly agree in terms of the obligations that the colleagues have in terms of the debit orders and the like. And that is why we had indicated to the colleagues that in instances where anybody is to incur any kind of a cost relating to any kind of a bounce debit or anything of that nature, as the organization, we are definitely going to be reimbursing the members in as far as that part is concerned. So we do appreciate the criticality of the issue of salaries, and we do understand how central that is. But of course, like we have indicated, it is something that happened in the technical space in terms of the banking issues, as it were. But of course, we are committing that the error will not happen again.
And Mike, you are saying that workers indeed will be reimbursed for those debit orders which have bounced. How long will that process take? When will workers be reimbursed, and how soon can that happen?
Yeah, so basically, Mbali, I can also indicate that what we do as the new organization in the space, we actually do, I will say, around 3 runs in a month. Firstly, we do the payment of salaries on the 15th, but immediately after that, we do the run for the overtime, the what you call S&T, which is your travel as well as subsistence issues, as well as other allowances that the members need to get. And the last one that we do is at the end of the month. So the issue is, as soon as the colleagues are able to submit any in instances of any incurred, we will be able to do those runs together with the runs that we do. So the first one that we do is a week after the 15th, which is the coming week, and the other one will do it by end of June. So that is basically the essence, and we have already communicated that to the colleagues. And by the way, we have also been engaging with labor in all of these issues, and also in terms of the transition itself, because it has been a very complicated transition, Mbali, and of course, all of the activities that we needed to do, we have been very much in par together with the 2 key labor organizations, in this instance being the Public Servants Association, together with NAHAU.
Another issue when it comes to the pay slips, your workers are saying that they have noticed that there are deductions which they were not made aware of. Apparently, they are paying for salaries, policies, which they were not even notified about. Can you clarify that? Exactly what are those deductions? And did you notify your employees before even deducting these amounts?
Yeah, so maybe let me also put that very clear, Mbali. So that particular instance primarily happened in the April run, as it were, and we had also the same bit of, although at a bit of a lower level in May. But the issue here to note, Mbali, is that, remember, we had to get data that came from 4 government departments, which came out of the payroll system of government, and we had to load that into our new payroll system. So during that process of loading, there were instances where the actual names of the what we call third parties, these are policies, these are medical aids, these are a lot of things that people have on the salary as a stop order, as it were. But what then happened was, we had instances where somebody would have, for example, a home loan of a particular bank, but during the capturing as part of the transition, you find that there is an error in terms of a different name of the bank being used, but the actual amount being deducted being the correct amount. So that is why there is no any employee who had defaulted in terms of our payment of the third parties, in terms of the banks, in terms of the policies, also in terms of their pension fund, even in terms of their SACs. The only issue was the naming convention of a particular deduction that was supposed to be happening. So in other words, if, for example, you had a housing loan of, let's say, 2,000 with Bank X, and let's say that, maybe I can be practical, let's say with FNB, and then you find that during the capturing, somebody then made an error and put ABSA, but the deduction is still the same 2,000. So when we did the actual payments into the third parties, we then used the data we got from the original departments. And that is why there was no any error in the payments of the third parties. The error was just on the payslip, and most of those errors had been corrected in this particular June payslips. So as we speak, Tetan, we can say that the transition was really very much heavy administratively, over 2,000 staff members that we had to uptake, but we had to deal with everything. And there were errors there and there. And up to now, we are confident that we are fairly stable.
And Mike, can you assure the workers that come July the 15th, that their salaries will come in on time this time around?
No, definitely. Mbali, I can actually indicate that even when we were actually moving for this particular one, we had that assurance. And of course, we couldn't have practically, in a way, anticipated the unfortunate issue that actually transpired, which we understand was more technical around the closure of the runs and all. And the submissions was a bit late, and that is why the run was actually delayed. So in terms of the upcoming month of July, we can definitely confirm to our colleagues for the run of the 15th of July that everything is going to be run on the 14th, and therefore by the 15th midnight into the 15th, everything will be sorted. Mbali.
All right, Mike Masiapato, thank you so much for your time. That is Dr. Mike Masiapato.